The old alarm clock that changed everything. My name is Jack Reynolds, and I've lived a long life, one full of joy, loss, ordinary days, and the kind of memories that sneak up on you when you least expect them. I live alone now, in a modest two-story home just outside Lexington, Kentucky. It's not much, but it's the kind of place that creaks in the right places and holds on to warmth in the winter. The walls have seen laughter, arguments, spilled coffee, and the quiet mornings that follow both heartbreak and healing. I never thought an old alarm clock would bring any of that back, but it did, and it changed everything. March mornings. It started on one of those March mornings that feel like winter hasn't quite left the room yet. The trees were still bare, the lawn was brown, and the air had that dry, unforgiving chill that makes you question your heating bill. I had woken up around 6, the way I usually do, not because of any alarm, but because my body just knows. Once you hit your late 60s, your sleep becomes more of a suggestion than a certainty. After my usual coffee and newspaper at the kitchen table, I decided to do something different. I'd been putting off spring cleaning for years, always saying next week or when the weather warms up, even though we both know those are just polite ways to say never. But that day, I grabbed the old wooden step stool and opened the hallway closet upstairs. The top shelf was cluttered with boxes, most of them untouched since the early 2000s. Dust danced in the sunlight that spilled through the narrow hallway window. I pulled one down, a shoe box, taped shut and marked with faded Sharpie. Dad's stuff? And there it was, wrapped in a soft, worn-out handkerchief with the initials RR stitched in blue thread. My father's alarm clock. Time stopped. It was heavier than I remembered, all brass and chrome, with 2 silver bells on top and a little hammer between them, perfectly still. The glass face was fogged from age, and one of the hands was slightly bent inward, like it had tired of pointing at the same hours again and again. I hadn't seen it in, I don't know, decades. Back when I was a boy, that clock was the heartbeat of our home. It rang every morning at 5 a.m. sharp. My dad, Robert Reynolds, was a steel worker, a proud one. He'd rise before the sun, shave in silence, and have his lunch pail packed by the time my mother had the eggs frying. It's strange how the smallest things hold the largest echoes. I cradled the clock like it was made of porcelain. The metal was cold, but the memory it carried was warm. I wound it, slowly, the way I'd seen my dad do it every Sunday night before the work week started. Click, 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 and suddenly it ticked. Just like that, a machine that had slept for 30 years came alive in my hands. First ring. That night, I didn't mean to do anything special. I set the clock on my nightstand, mostly out of curiosity. I even set the alarm for 5 a.m., just like Dad used to. Why? I don't really know. Maybe it was nostalgia. Maybe it was loneliness. When it rang the next morning, it startled the hell out of me. It was loud, unapologetically loud. The kind of ringing that doesn't care if you went to bed late, or if it's Saturday. The kind that says, time's up, let's go. And for the first time in years, I woke up with purpose. I brewed coffee before the sun came up. I watched the horizon change colors through the kitchen window. I sat with my thoughts, not out of boredom, but out of something else, something deeper. That ticking, it was like a heartbeat in the room. Not mine, not even Dad's, but something that had once connected us both. Memory lane. Over the next few days, I kept winding the clock every night, letting it ring at 5 a.m., letting it guide me quietly into a rhythm I hadn't known I missed. And with each passing morning, memories came back. Little things, like how Dad used to whistle Blue Skies by Irving Berlin while shaving, the blade gliding carefully along his chin. Or how Mom would always place a spoonful of strawberry jam right in the center of my toast, a tiny red jewel on a square of golden brown. I remember the soft clink of Dad's lunchbox opening in the evening, the way he'd smile at my drawings, the way he always smelled faintly of oil and sweat, a comforting scent to me. One morning, I found myself reaching into a kitchen drawer and pulling out an old frying pan I hadn't used in years. I made bacon, eggs, and toast, the way Mom used to. No microwave shortcuts. Just butter, salt, and patience. Emily's visit. A few days later, my daughter Emily came by. She's 36 now, married with 2 kids and a teaching job that eats up her energy like candy. She walked in carrying a bag of groceries, milk, bread, some soup for the freezer. She does that every now and then. Calls it dad sitting. Even though I'm still sharp enough to mow my own lawn and pay my own bills. As we sat in the kitchen, she noticed the alarm clock on the windowsill. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked, walking over to it. "Yep," I said, "your grandpa's old clock." "I remember that thing," she laughed, touching the cold brass. "Didn't it used to scare me as a kid?" "It scared all of us," I said with a grin. She was quiet for a second. Then she said something I hadn't expected. "I miss him. I miss Grandma, too." I didn't say anything. I just nodded. Emily sat down across from me, still looking at the clock. "I don't know what it is," she said, "but something about that thing makes me feel grounded, like we're connected to something bigger than us." I smiled. That's exactly it. And that morning, we didn't talk about her job, or the rising cost of daycare, or the leaky faucet in my upstairs bathroom. We talked about her grandfather, his old truck, the backyard barbecue he built himself, the way he used to sneak peppermints into her tiny hands when she was little. It was the first real conversation we'd had in months, maybe years, that wasn't about chores or bills. That clock had done something. It had opened a door, a letter in the drawer. A few mornings later, after breakfast and another round of ticking nostalgia, I found myself opening Dad's old dresser drawers. I hadn't gone through them in years. Most of his things had been boxed up after he passed. But the dresser itself, an old oak relic that had followed him from apartment to house to home, remained in my spare room. In the bottom drawer, tucked behind a stack of yellowed shirts, I found a letter. The envelope was unsealed. My name, Jack, written in Dad's strong but aged handwriting. My heart pounded as I opened it. "Son, if you're reading this, it means you found my old clock. That's good. I kept that thing close because it reminded me of why I got up every morning. It wasn't just the job. It was you, your mother, the life we were building. You'll learn one day that time doesn't wait. It just walks beside us, quiet, stubborn, and patient. I hope that clock wakes you up in more ways than one. Love you always, Dad." I don't cry easily. Never have. But that day, I sat on the edge of the bed and let the tears come. Not loud, not long, but real, because he was right. That clock was waking me up, not just in the morning, but to my life, a new routine. From that day on, my days took on a new shape. I woke up early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I started walking again. Just a mile or two at first, down to the local park where geese gathered near the pond, and old men played checkers at worn wooden tables. I brought the clock with me once, just to photograph it beside the bench where Dad used to sit. Some of the men there chuckled. "Now that's a relic," one of them said. "Better than a phone." I replied, "It rings with meaning." And we laughed, but inside I meant every word. Letters from the past. That night, I began a new habit. I wrote letters to my dad. Not to send, of course, just to write. Each night before bed, I'd sit with a cup of decaf and jot down a few thoughts about my day, about Emily and the grandkids, about memories I thought I'd forgotten. It felt like stitching myself back together. One night I wrote, "Dear Dad, Emily made your famous grilled cheese today. She swears she remembers a secret. Extra butter, a sprinkle of garlic salt, and low heat. She was right. I think you'd be proud of her. And of me, too, maybe. I'm waking up again." And I meant it. Unexpected visitors. Word got around. Small towns work like that. One Sunday morning, George, my neighbor from 2 doors down, knocked on my door holding a shoebox. "Susan said you've been on some kind of memory kick," he grinned. Inside the box, his father's pocket watch. Tarnished. Silent. "You know how to fix this thing?" "I don't," I said, "but I know how to listen to it." We sat in my kitchen for an hour, winding it gently, talking about our dads, old tools, first jobs, and how nothing these days is made to last. Before he left, he said, "That clock of yours, it's doing more than waking you up, Jack." And I believed him. Full circle. One chilly morning, I invited Emily and the kids over for breakfast. I wanted them to hear the clock ring. It was 4:59 a.m. when I tiptoed into the guest room where my grandkids were sleeping. And at 5 o'clock sharp, the bells rang out. Their little eyes popped open, startled. "Grandpa!" shouted Liam, my 8-year-old grandson. "What was that?" "That," I said, smiling, was the sound my dad getting ready for work. Every single morning. They groaned, they laughed, and we made pancakes together. I told them stories. They asked questions. The clock kept ticking on the table, steady and true. Time wasn't just passing. It was connecting us. The ticking that brought me back. The soundtrack of stillness. It's funny how quickly something old can become essential again. That alarm clock wasn't just an antique anymore. It was a metronome to my mornings, the background rhythm of my newly found peace. I started listening more, not just to the ticking, but to life. The rustle of the trees outside, the crackle of bacon in the pan, the whistle of the kettle, the faint footsteps of the mailman walking up the front steps. Everything had sound now. Everything had presence. I began writing again, real writing, not just letters to Dad, but pages and pages of memories, thoughts, and lessons I never took time to reflect on. I called it the Clock Journal. I didn't plan to publish it or even show it to anyone. It was just for me and for whoever I was becoming in this new chapter of life. And I felt younger, not physically, of course. My knees still ached, and I still misplaced my glasses 3 times a day. But inside, something had shifted, reconnecting. One Thursday afternoon, I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from in over a decade, Charlie Dean. We'd been best friends growing up. He was the best man at my wedding. But somewhere along the way, life, pride, misunderstandings, we drifted. "Jack," he said, "I heard from my cousin you've been stirring up the past with that old clock of yours." I laughed. News travels fast. "Well," he said, "I've still got that ugly guitar you gave me for graduation." I chuckled. "You still can't play, I bet." We ended up meeting that Saturday for coffee. 2 old men sitting in a booth, sipping burnt diner brew, swapping stories like we were 20 again. He told me about his hip surgery, his wife's garden obsession, and how his youngest daughter was finally moving back from Oregon. I told him about Emily, the grandkids, the clock. "That thing's like a lighthouse," he said, calling ships home. And he was right, sharing the story. Emily came by one day with her laptop. "You should post about it," she said. "About what?" "The clock, what it means to you, your stories. People love stuff like that." I shrugged. Who'd care about an old man's alarm clock? She gave me a look, the one I'd seen her give her students when they doubted themselves. "More people than you think, Dad." So she helped me create a blog. Simple, clean. Called it Mornings with Dad. We uploaded my entries from the Clock Journal, added photos of the clock, the breakfast table, even that foggy picture from the park bench. Within a week, there were dozens of comments. Strangers, some younger, some older, sharing memories of their own fathers, grandparents, morning routines, loss of time. One woman wrote, "Your story made me call my dad for the first time in 3 years. Thank you." Another man commented, "I inherited my dad's old radio. I never understood why he loved it so much. After reading your blog, I turned on again. I get it now." I sat in stunned silence. That clock had rippled out into the world. The garage project. With spring blooming, I decided to tackle something big, the garage. It had been a dumping ground for over 15 years. Old tools, broken furniture, holiday decorations that hadn't seen daylight since the Clinton administration. But something about the momentum I'd found gave me the energy to finally do it. As I cleaned, I found more relics of the past. Dad's toolbox, still neatly organized. Mom's handwritten recipe cards, slightly curled at the edges. A crate of old cassette tapes, most labeled Sunday Mix in her soft handwriting. Emily came by to help. She found her childhood scooter. The kids found a dusty snow globe from our trip to Niagara Falls. We laughed, we coughed in the dust. We filled 3 trash bags and 2 boxes of donation. Then we found the workbench, hidden under a tarp and covered in cobwebs. It was the one my father built himself. Solid oak, iron clamps, oil stains from decades past. "I remember this," Emily whispered. We cleared it off together, set against the far wall, and I placed the alarm clock right on top. It looked like it had come home. Letters keep coming. I kept writing. Every night. Sometimes short entries. Sometimes full pages. One night I wrote, "Dear Dad, I met with Charlie. We're old now, balder, slower, louder, but we laugh like we were in high school. You were right about time. It doesn't rush. It waits for us to notice it again." Another night, "Dear Dad, Emily cried today. She said she misses Mom more than she lets on. We held hands for a while and just sat. Thank you for teaching me how to be present." A community forms. The blog grew, slowly but steadily. People began sending their own photos of clocks, radios, lunchboxes, even handwritten notes their parents left behind. We started calling it the Morning Circle, a loose group of people, mostly older, sharing the quiet treasures of their lives. One man mailed me a photo of his dad's old fishing hat. A woman emailed to say she dug out her mom's church fan and now keeps it on her mantle. The stories were small, simple, but so full of heart. One night, I sat by the window, a gentle Kentucky rain falling outside, the clock ticking beside me, and I realized I hadn't felt lonely in weeks. Coming full circle. One Sunday, I asked Emily if we could visit Dad's grave. We hadn't been in years. Life had gotten in the way. We packed a picnic. Peanut butter sandwiches, apples, ginger ale, just like Dad used to love. At the cemetery, the grass was soft, the air still. I placed the alarm clock at the base of the headstone. "I think you'd like what's become of your mornings," I whispered. Emily knelt beside me. The kids stood quietly, and for a long moment, we just listened. The world was quiet, but the clock still ticked. The time we keep, the quiet morning. The sun was just peeking over the horizon as I sat on the porch with a cup of black coffee, the old alarm clock ticking steadily beside me. Emily joined me, carrying Liam and Sophie, her 2 youngest, wrapped in cozy blankets. "Grandpa," Liam said, eyes wide, "tell me again about the clock that woke you up." I chuckled. "All right, but only if Sophie promises to help me wind it." She giggled and nodded. So I began. Stories at last. I told them about their great-grandfather, a man who worked hard, loved harder, and cherished every morning like a gift. I told them how the clock wasn't just an alarm, but a symbol of time's passage, of memories saved, of moments shared. "How do you know all this, Grandpa?" Sophie asked. "Because sometimes," I said, "the simplest things hold the deepest stories." A family tradition. That day, after breakfast, Emily and I went through the attic, searching for more treasures. We found old photo albums, faded letters, a box of handmade quilts. Each item sparked a new story. By evening, we decided to start a new tradition, a yearly gathering where the whole family would share stories, laugh, and remember. We called it the Morning Circle Reunion. Ripples beyond us. The blog had blossomed beyond what I imagined. Messages from across the country poured in. People reconnecting with their past, sharing their own family heirlooms, rekindling lost bonds. One reader wrote, "Your story inspired me to call my brother after 10 years of silence." Another shared a video of their restored clock, ticking proudly on their mantle. Emily started organizing virtual meetups for the Morning Circle community, where people could come together to share memories and support one another. Finding peace. Sitting in the quiet house one night, I reflected on the journey, from a forgotten alarm clock on a dusty shelf to a symbol of hope, connection, and renewal. It had changed me, not just by waking me up in the morning, but by waking me to life. The life I had, the life I wanted, the life worth living. A new day. The next morning, as the alarm rang at 5 o'clock sharp, I felt something I hadn't in years. Gratitude, hope, love. The clock's chimes weren't just sounds. They were a heartbeat, a promise, a reminder that no matter how fast the world moves, Some moments are ours to keep. Thank you for sharing this special moment with me. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and share it with those who cherish family memories and meaningful moments. Don't forget to subscribe to Golden Moments so you won't miss the next heartfelt stories that bring inspiration and joy to every day. Remember, every moment matters, and the best stories are still ahead. See you in the next video.